Leonard around Biyombo in the corner to Harden for three in the tie. Ball knocked out of bounds.
James Harden's season on the Los Angeles Clippers has been a little bit less than stellar. You know, he has his most fame coming from the Houston days where he was pretty much the, isocentric guard that would pretty much bring his teams from the brink of failure all the way to success. And then taking that to Brooklyn and seeing that team fail, going into the 76ers and still seeing minimal amounts of success, being disgruntled there, and then going to the Clippers. Now, for the fit on the Clippers, he really wasn't that necessarily a great fit. He was the best fit possible because the Clippers has always lacked one thing. They've always had Paul George and Kawhi, two really good swings. They had, Ivica Zubac as well, and recently they got Russell Westbrook. But one thing that they really, really needed was a true point guard. And James Harden has shown throughout the years that he can be that true point guard. Now, to what degree, we don't really know. But we do know that when he was on the 76ers, he was averaging 11 assists with 21 points. And for me, I think that's more than enough. I think that's really, really good, actually, especially when you pair it to being the second option and having Joel Embiid in a very stagnant offense that Doc Rivers had to be the main person, the main go-ahead, but still being valid enough for you to be an offensive threat, which he always is. And so he's taking those talents to the Los Angeles Clippers after being disgruntled with Daryl Morey and how all that fiasco went. But he is now on the Los Angeles Clippers, which we all expected to be fireworks. We all expected the Los Angeles Clippers to do something amazing. And then they lose their first game, and then lose their second game, all the way to 6 straight losses when James Harden joined the team. Now, this was a blow-up, a laugh in the face, because simultaneously, as the Clippers are losing, the 76ers are doing phenomenal. They're seeing the resurgence of Joel Embiid, not only just being the MVP player that he was last year, but not only just putting him in this system where not only does he work in the post on ball, but he's also been a key part of the offense off ball. Now, this offense wouldn't work without the prowess of Tyrese Maxey. Now, Tyrese Maxey is pretty much coming to his own where he is allowed to be more free, push the pace of the offense on fast breaks and made points, and has been phenomenal for them, has been absolutely phenomenal for them. So while James Harden is really having like a terrible season, you're seeing that the team that you just left is having a pretty good season. Matter of fact, is one of the favorites outside of the Boston Celtics. And so you look at this trade, right? You look at the James Harden trade and you say, listen, we gave up a lot for you. We gave up Robert Covington. They're most likely going to give up Bones Highland because Bones Highland is not really playing. It seems like that, with Russell Westbrook going towards the bench, Bones Highland has pretty much lost his role on the team. So does Terrence Mann as well. Terrence Mann is still playing, but to what degree is he going to be really effective for the team? Now, while they're losing their games, you have the absolute bombshell that one of the commentators has said about James Harden.
To pipe this into the Clippers locker room. If I can talk to you, James, I hope you're taking notes. I'm telling you in advance, you're welcome for the wisdom I'm about to spew. Because, listen, I get on my knees every night and pray for someone to believe in me like Daryl Morey believed in you. You wanted a certain coach, they brought in Mike D'Antoni. You want to play a certain style, they played it. You wanted Dwight Howard, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. You wanted Chris Paul, they brought him in and got rid of him when you were tired of him. They brought in your old friend Russell Westbrook. You want to go to Vegas on off days? They looked away.
Now, everything in this clip is true. It simply is. There's nothing to really, no if and buts about it, right? James Harden has pretty much got everything he's ever wanted in his career. Not even LeBron James has got everything he's wanted in his career, right? But James Harden has got pretty much everything. He didn't have what he wanted in OKC, and then he went from OKC to Houston. He went to Houston, had a team built all the way around him, right? You got Dwight Howard, you have, Chandler Parsons, who really turned out to be a dud, but hey, you had him, right? And then you also got CP3, which made the offense prolific, right? You didn't want the center. Okay, cool, they got rid of the center, right? Got rid of Clint Capella. You didn't want, once Russell Westbrook and that system wasn't working, Russell Westbrook got out of there. And then it was time to rebuild because what else? What else is there to do, right? You got out of there. And then you went to the Brooklyn Nets, where the Brooklyn Nets, in my opinion, was a little bit more, listen, I'll take a little bit of the burden off of James Harden. James Harden was playing through injuries for a lot of the time. But he also was dealing with Kyrie Irving, Kyrie Irving was a little bit of a loose cannon where you didn't know when he's going to play, whether it be personal reasons, whether it be him posting, anti-Semitic link on his socials, or whether it be just the vaccine, right? You had a lot of inconsistencies with that team, and you also had Kevin Durant also getting hurt. So I understand feeling that, oh man, it's been a little bit of a tough time playing in that type of system, that type of environment. However, I will say that was probably the most fundamental mistake that he's made in his career, because once he left Brooklyn Nets, if they stayed together, just thinking about the teams that they had to face, I don't think the Boston Celtics is going to beat them in a 7-game series. They proved that they couldn't. I don't think Golden State at that time, right, in the championship would be able to beat them in the 7-game series when all players are healthy. That was pretty much the nail in the coffin. Once that happened, there was nothing else you can do, because then he went from one team to the other. He went to the 76ers, which he said initially that's where he wanted to go, right? And then he had to play under the system of Doc Rivers, and we all know how that is, right? ISO, stagnant offense. You might be able to raise the floor of, a lot of the role players, but not necessarily get the best out of your stars, limited coaching, whatever, right? But then, you still played kind of well. And in the system that you had, the only issue that I think was, and part of this is due to coaching, but a little of this is part of your IQ as a basketball player and just really sticking to your guts, is that when Joel Embiid came back, James Harden went back into the more passive role. And you don't really need James Harden to be passive, because once he's passive, you take him out the game entirely. He's not really a off-ball scorer or does really much off-ball. Tyronn Lue is probably going to have him do a little bit more off-ball this season than he's ever really done. But, he's never really been that type of person. So when you have this, little bit of dichotomy where you don't know how things are going to fit, right? You still have to play your game. Right, you still have to be effective as a second option, right? And then you drop 7 points in the last game. And then now we're in the Los Angeles Clippers, where the fit is a little bit wonky. It is a little bit wonky. Right now, you for the first 6 games, you had Russell Westbrook, and everybody used to blame Russell Westbrook as the scapegoat, but Russell Westbrook is one of the best teammates you can have. Like, quite literally one of the best teammates you can have. Yes, does he make a lot of mistakes? Has he really improved his game for his whole career after a certain point? No, he has not. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult watching Russell Westbrook and cheering for Russell Westbrook as he makes the same bonehead decisions that he's always made. But here's the thing. He is unselfish. He will give you 1,000% hustle, 1,000% every single night, right? And he will try to be there every single night. But right now, he's on the bench. He's pretty much like their 6th scoring option. Really their 8th scoring option behind Norman Powell and a few other people. So you don't really have the caveat of blaming other players outside of yourself, James Harden. And also the team's efficiency has went down. Paul George, who was having a stellar season before James Harden got here, is now a little bit struggling, but now he's kind of getting back on the main thing, right? He's getting back on the wheel, on the wagon. And after the first 6 games, it was really dire for the Clippers. And it might be one of those adjustment periods, which is fair because James Harden did not play in the preseason. He only played practice scrimmages in Philadelphia, where he wasn't even going to stay there. So now he's learning a new system. But the issue still stands. You're still losing to a lot of teams that conceivably you guys should beat, right? You guys have all the talent to beat. And if you cannot do it, right, if you cannot get things to click, especially in the Western Conference, where there's only really one team that's a little bit of ahead of everybody else, and that's the Phoenix Suns. And so you do have a little bit of a grace period where you can try to find yourself while every other team is struggling. I mean, the Memphis Grizzlies is dog water. You have the Golden State Warriors, who is consistently inconsistent. You have the Denver Nuggets as well, and that's probably like 1A, 1B. In terms of who's going to be in the playoffs making deep runs. But right now, if you can't show anything, if you can't show that you're going to be a 1A or a 1B or even a 1C, right, that is going to actually contend for a championship, the Clippers getting James Harden would be a massive mistake. And that's the one thing that you cannot have if you're James Harden, because this is it. This is your year. This is the last thing you have. Because once you left Brooklyn Nets, They was going to give you that option where they can pay you Supermax, most definitely. It'll just be you, Kyrie, and the Kevin Durant show. But now there's no team that wants to pick up that option. And that is partly due because of decisions that he made. And so right now, as the Clippers are slowly gaining back and getting back on their feet, James Harden needs to really, really up the play. And the Clippers just in general really need to up the play. There needs to be less of a stagnant offense, more off-ball movement, getting more players involved, just having a more fluidity in their offense, and plucking up the holes and gaps in defense. But in my honest opinion, if they don't figure anything out now, I think it's going to be a little bit too late.